Cricket et al. It's a website, it's a podcast.
Pete, it's a way of life. It's Gideon Haig over here.
And it's Peter Lawler up here.
And welcome to Cricket et al., your independent cricket podcast, coming to you live from the scorer's box at Perth Stadium. That's where we are at the moment, Pete. We should probably describe it, shouldn't we?
Yeah, well, I don't know if we should because I think technically we're not actually allowed to record in here, Gideon. I don't think we have rights to record in the ground, but we shall progress and...
Look, we've recorded in rougher places than this.
We certainly have.
Yeah.
I like the dull background.
Yeah, but we haven't often recorded with Australia in a rougher place than this.
No,
nice
we
segue.
have not. Oh, nice segue.
Yeah.
Well done,
They're 218 behind with India with all 10 second innings wickets in hand, and a test match that was full of manic energy for the first 4 sessions in which 20 wickets fell has gone 2 sessions without a wicket falling. I like this modern Test cricket. It's the momentum shifts are emphatic and total, and it can be measured in the force of newtons. It's pretty remarkable day's play. Pretty remarkable 2 days. It's almost that the game's been sort of decelerating as time's gone on, and towards the end, Australia didn't look like getting a wicket, did they?
Not a single wicket. Be honest with me. When you came to the ground this morning, did you think the match would continue at the same pace it had started at?
I didn't think it would continue at quite the same pace because that you can't really back up 17 wickets with another 17 wickets. But I had a fair sense that we'd be a long way down the track. That maybe India might be 5 down at the close. That was my optimistic projection.
Yeah,
and. And maybe Australia expected that too, because they did look a little bit in the second innings like they were kind of hanging back, waiting for things to happen, expecting the pitch to continue helping them. They're a bit flat in the field. There'd be some tired bowlers out there because they've hardly had a rest between innings. But Australia was struggling for inspiration. And I think there will be some questions asked at the end of this game about whether the team was absolutely right, absolutely cherry ripe coming into the game. They probably were in the first innings because they were razor sharp. But as Test match unfolds and the tone gets more attritional, that really does test your endurance and your concentration. And maybe Australia, having not played a Test match for 256 days, have forgotten how difficult it is.
I'm a positive kind of guy.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah. And we saw some great cricket today.
Did.
We really shouldn't bury the lead. And the lead is Jaiswal's innings, don't you think?
Yeah, I do. But I think don't underestimate Rahul. I think Rahul did a fantastic job of getting Jaiswal through the early stages of that innings where he was kind of still feeling his way in the conditions. And Jaiswal will walk away. He's 90 not out at the close. He'll probably pick up 100 tomorrow at first Test match in Australia, but this genuinely was a partnership. It's the highest for the first wicket by India in Australia.
Really? That's a good stat, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
I suppose I'm always distracted by the shiny new toys and the potential. KL Rahul is a great story. KL Rahul came out here early. He wasn't in the 11, was he? Before they started, not a chance. He came out. He didn't go so well, but when the door opened, he was here. He had his feet on the ground and he was ready to go. An opportunity announced itself. He took that opportunity. He did look good in the first innings.
He did.
He was aggrieved to get out. And I wasn't 100% sure that he was out when he was given out.
I don't think he was. Yeah. But look, he's got prior Australian experience. He made 100 in his second Test match in Australia. I think we both remember that in Sydney. He's got experience of making runs when other people don't. Yeah. That's part of his value to this Indian team. He's got 200s against South Africa at Centurion Park in low Indian totals. He's a good overseas player. Perhaps hasn't made the runs that you would have expected him to in front of his home crowd.
Yeah.
But in conditions like these were kind of tailor-made for his kind of game. He's a lovely player to watch. I mean, he's a very orthodox, old-fashioned player, high front elbow, nice laconic leaves, very sound defence, plays the ball very late under his eyes, and you really saw his value today. But as you say, Jaiswal, well, we'd heard all about him. We'd watched him on TV. This was our first experience of really watching him live. And wasn't he impressive?
Wow.
Wasn't he impressive?
He was as impressive today as he was so damned unimpressive with that shot. Yes. But that was one shot on that day. Yeah. To set it up, I arrived at this ground this morning, walked in with Gerard Waitley and did the little drive-by of the pitch that I can do because I got that yellow pass. And there was there were so many people gathered around that pitch. They weren't doing a pitch report. It was like one of those crime scene investigation units, like the tape was out and everyone was just looking at it. And like there had been blood spilt there yesterday. There'd been a terrible, terrible accident. The curator was a little defensive. He didn't think his pitch was so bad. And I noticed a lot of the comments when we spoke yesterday were, if that many wickets had been lost in India on a pitch, we'd have condemned the pitch.
True enough.
But yes, I don't think that pitch was as bad as the performances yesterday suggested. No. I think that if you could have held on, you would have been able to prosper, and so it proved.
Yeah.
Because had Australia been able to hang on and get what did they start? They were 6 down at the start of the day. 7 down at the start of the day. So they had really little petrol left in the tank. The fact that Mitchell Starc and Josh Hazlewood were out there for 110 plus balls, the longest partnership and the most productive partnership of the game, suggested to me that those above them really should have been there then and would have cashed in had they been there then. They'd let themselves down by not applying themselves the day before. And so it proved when young Jaiswal and KL Rahul got out there to have a bat. The going had got a hell of a lot easier. Yeah, I think. Yeah. That's not to take anything away from their innings, but the wicket had settled down a little bit, as wickets do, particularly wickets that have got a lot of moisture in them on a first day, a bit more moisture than you'd want in them on a first day. But it was not a bad wicket, nor was the intention to produce a wicket that would lead to so many players getting out on the first day. But Jaiswal, I mean, we all know.
Just two things to say about that. Yeah. I think that you make a valuable point there. One of the things that underscored to me was how valuable it was that Harshit Rana and Mohammad Siraj were able to break through yesterday night. You would have budgeted to lose wickets to Bumrah in his opening spell, but the fact that they were able to keep up that momentum through that last session, get Australia 7 down, meant that there really wasn't there was no firepower left for Australia today when the batting conditions were good. As you say, Hazlewood and Starc, didn't just survive out there. They made it look pretty easy. There were relatively few false shots. Really, the first extravagance that Starc attempted on the brink of lunch was the shot that he got out to. They could almost have kept India in the field a little bit longer because, once India got out there and once they got through the opening burst, Australia struggled for inspiration. It was almost as though it seemed to me that Australians were in the field reenacting their innings and kind of ruining the fact that they'd had this opportunity to really put India away, because you don't often bowl a team out for 150 on the first day of a test match. This was a fantastic opportunity to slot India and go 1-0 up. But they've blown it. And I think I heard the stat today that it's the 5th time in test history that Australia has bowled out an opposition for 150 or less in the first innings and failed to reach it. 4 times that's happened before. Amazing, this is the 5th, and they've lost the other 4 times.
You've really started up today, haven't you? Where are you getting all these stats from?
Probably from SEN, mate. From listening to you on SEN.
Yeah, good
you just
on
forget them.
Good on you. Good on you. So anyway, Jaiswal, I do want to talk about him a little bit. I mean, he's 21 years old. When I was sitting up the back of the box, Ravi Yashasvi came up and said, "Peter, where is the depth? Where is the depth in Australian batting?"
Too, actually.
You're an opening position comes up. You have your great Australian bat off, and you come up with McSweeney. And with no disrespect, McSweeney's an okay cricketer, but boy oh boy, when an opening position came up in India a couple of years ago, Jaiswal was 21 years old in a series against the West Indies, and he starts with 176. And he continues on. He makes those 2 glorious double centuries against England.
He's seen off some bloody good rivals too.
Yeah.
Ruturaj Gaikwad, Devdutt Padikkal, Prithvi Shaw, Mayank Agarwal. These are very, very good players who would probably get into the Australian side, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he has just made an unassailable case to keep that position.
Yeah. And those feats, he scored 712 runs, something like that, in that series against England. The only other Indian batter to score more than 700 at home is Sunil Gavaskar.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only other to score those runs, the runs that he did at such a young age were Bradman and Cumbley. He's already suggesting that he's in that sort of company, and he just looks lovely at the wicket. I'd love to hear what you see of him at the wicket.
Yeah, no, he's so boyish, for one thing. He looks like an overgrown adolescent, doesn't he? And he looks very unassuming.
Well,
he's not an alpha, is he?
No.
Except when he swings the bat, because he hit some shots today that were just outrageous, weren't they? That flick off the toes from Stark, which he didn't try to keep down. He could clearly, he just went with it. He absolutely went with it. The fearlessness of youth, and then he hits that 6 off line down the ground, and he hit it so perfectly that no one even bothered to follow the ball. No one even looked. You heard it off the bat. You went, that's going.
Oh, boy.
That is going a long way. And it just went over mid on, over long on, over longer on, almost out of the ground, it seemed.
But they're cricket shots, aren't they? They're beautiful cricket shots. He's not slogging the ball.
No, he's not slogging. No.
If you looked at his scores in the past, or where he'd come from, you would think that perhaps he's in the mould of a Rishabh Pant or something like that. I don't know why you would go to that conclusion. Maybe it's... I retract that. God, I'm tired. God, I've got to stop waking up at 4:30 in the morning in Perth.
No, he's a very accomplished player. His temperament's very impressive too. It's not just technically. He paced that innings really well today. Well, he struggled early on. He struggled early through the first half to 3/4 of an hour. He was feeling for the ball. He was going quite hard at the ball, and then he kind of just sunk back and started to soak up some balls and just get him used to it. And that's where I think Rahul's value was shown. I thought Rahul kind of co-piloted him beautifully today.
It was his 9th Test half century that he brought up out there today, and it was his slowest. Sort of shows a bit of game awareness too. Yep. I mean, a pretty good bowling attack at him didn't give him a lot of opportunity.
Plenty of time to play with too.
Yeah,
when you're in your second innings and it's the 5th session of the game, time's on your side.
5 days they go for tests, apparently. Really? Yeah. 5 days, yeah. We didn't think we were going to get... I mean, I wouldn't have been... there was a chance this test could have ended today had things continued as they'd started. But he's very special. Great time for India. It was lovely in that Indian restaurant last night. Some lovely scenes, wasn't it? Yeah, we went up.
Bolty is the restaurant, in case you're interested in going tonight. You might see an Indian cricketer, as indeed we did last night.
Yes, we did. And I think every Indian who's in Perth at the moment heads to that restaurant in the hope of seeing an Indian cricketer. I think we were introduced... Well, I went there the first time with Ed Cowan. I think it was his
that's right. Yeah.
It's become... Ben Horn and I go there a lot ever since. But last night we saw a few Indian cricketers.
We saw Harish Rana and we saw Kumar Reddy.
Wasn't it
and
lovely?
They got a lovely ovation, didn't they, when they came in? Everyone recognised it and they sort of shyly acknowledged it and went to their table, and I hope they had a good meal. We certainly had a good meal.
They had a good meal, and they were unmolested too. Nobody approached the table asking for autographs or things like that. Yeah. Bharat says that he's seen the Indian boys...
on their scooters.
On their e-scooters running around the street. This is heaven for them to be out and about like that. And it was great to see the fans actually give them some distance in that place. But the Indian fans are really up and about here and making a lot of noise, a distinct Indian noise to it.
Well, towards the end... They actually got a bit tired, I thought. They got a bit tired from all that cheering. When your lead gets to 218, what's more is there to cheer about?
It's the sort of place where you do get tired, Gideon.
It does. Yeah. We're all getting up. We're all waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, aren't we?
Was it 3? Well, I was 4 this morning. I did wake at 3. Anyway, let's not whinge because we're having the time of our lives here for Cricket et al.
Yeah, we are. We are indeed.
Yeah.
Should we update people on Cricket et al.? We've got merch.
I
know. Well, I'm wearing the merch. I've gone the white look today. This is the other one. was wearing the black one yesterday. If you go to our website, you'll see that that Dan has introduced to the top of the homepage. We've got a little icon that says merch. So if you click on that, you can order one of these T-shirts. I know that it's what all the best dressed people are wearing.
I need to warn anybody that orders them that they're new. Yeah. But I reckon in about 9 years, they'll come good. They'll be just perfect. You know, what comes good in 9 years? Like a good wine, I think. Yeah. A T-shirt doesn't peak until about its 9th year. But, you've already made an effort with that one. Looks like you've sort of...
I wear them out from the inside.
You pack it in your pocket.
So and thank you very much for people supporting the website during the Test match. We had a lot of page views this morning. I think it might actually be the best day in the history of the Cricket et al. Experience, Pete.
That was a really good high five.
Let's do it again. Yeah. All right.
Wow, that's how you do it. Yeah, that's fantastic. Apologies for being so tired today.
And so self-indulgent, but that's what Cricket et al. Is all about.
It's the modern way, Gideon.
It is.
You know, subscribe, push buttons, do all those things. Like us, please like us.
Look, I mean, we're having a great time. It's been a fascinating Test match. Test matches are intriguing these days. They're Test matches, but not as we knew them, Pete, growing up. The shifts are emphatic. It's high impact Test cricket. It's almost taken some T20 away from. Has been brought into the sphere of Test cricket. I think that's players steeped in that genre.
I think that's an interesting point because and Jaiswal's a fair example of it, because if you are just off slightly with a kid like that, he punishes you, doesn't he? He's ruthless on any error. He exploits any opportunity given, which is probably something you didn't traditionally see in Test match cricket. Play in the V, play in the V, play in the V. Does anyone play in the V anymore?
It's a lovely shot today by Rahul. Probably the shot of the day was that on drive that he played off Cummins. Wasn't
I saw beautiful? That. Wasn't it lovely? Yeah. But if you didn't see the innings, go back and look at some of the highlights. KL Rahul, as you said, is very good, but have a look at Jaiswal, because I just got a feeling you're going to be seeing a lot more of him, but I may have said that about a few kids in the past.
Well, indeed, Pete, I did raise with you today that you have written the longest piece ever published in an Australian newspaper about Prithvi Shaw, which you published the day that he was injured. And he proceeded to go home from that 2018-19 tour.
I think I spent 2 days researching that article. It was like 10 million words long. Yeah. And I just put the last full stop in, and I got a call from the office saying, "Can we get a picture of that kid?" And I said, "Yeah, probably. They're carrying him off in a stretcher right now." It was in a tour game, wasn't it? He didn't even make the test.
No, it was like the curse of the cover of Sports Illustrated. The minute that Pete Lawler piece appears with your name in it, duck for cover.
Yeah, well, I'm going to do what Pat Cummins and Mitchell Starc and Josh Hazlewood couldn't. I got to bring this kid undone. Say those things that you say.
Yeah, look, we're having a great time. Thanks very much for joining us again on Cricket et al. Lots of views for this unprepossessing podcast that we're doing live from the scorer's room, surrounded by the various impedimenta, with the iPad perched on top of the rubbish bin,
with the WBBL going on, and I think that's across the river. It is, actually. Yeah, that's over the road at the Wacker. Yeah. I'd like to go and see some cricket at the Wacker, had I not been at the cricket all day at the Perth Stadium.
I'm actually quite enjoying my walk to the ground in the morning, past the Wacker, past Gloucester Park.
You cut behind there.
Just before you cross the bridge, and it reminds me of Barry Richards' 207 here in the Super Test back in 1977, 78.
Does it remind you of Sachin Tendulkar's 100 here in 1992? Which is almost relevant.
And we thought we'd seen the future, and we were right. Not like Prithvi Shaw. We don't always get it right, but every now and again, like a stopped watch, we're right twice a day. That's all we've got time for.
No, it's not. It's not.
Okay.
If you walk the other way, you get to walk past the Simon Kadich Pavilion, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
If you walk past the school rather than going around
you'd make a pilgrimage to that, wouldn't you?
Most mornings, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, good on you.
That's all we've got time for on Cricket et al. Been great to have you with us. But in the meantime, it's goodbye from me.
And it's good night from him.